So hi everybody and welcome to another special Daily Success Deals Deal. I'm Matthew Kimberley, absolutely thrilled to have Susan Harrow with us. Today, Susan is a top media coach and consultant whose clients include everybody from rock stars to the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, as well as entrepreneurs, chefs, coaches, consultants, speakers, authors, you name it. She helps them. She shows them specifically how to double or triple their businesses with PR, that's public relations, right?
Yes, it is.
I think
and
so.
Yeah, I'm so impressed that you sort of memorized that and just ran it off like it was natural, which was really beautiful.
Don't tell anybody. I'm reading it off my screen. No. I'm kidding. And specifically by using sound bites effectively.
Yes,
that's your thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So she's the author of "Sell Yourself Without Selling Your Soul," and is known as the go-to girl for getting on Oprah, which of course is something we'd all love to do at some stage. She's media coached her clients for CBS's 60 Minutes, Oprah, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Fox News, Bill O'Reilly, Larry King Live, The Food Network, and a lot more. But let's jump in straight away to find out how Susan can show you how to enjoy great success, the kind of success that her seminar participants and her private clients enjoy in order to get on TV, and then when you're on TV, how to make the most of it. Susan, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here with all of your people.
Why don't we start with the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to wanting to get onto TV?
It's something that people might not think about, but it's not having their systems down ahead of time. So I just media trained someone who's going to be on the Today Show this week and was looking at their website. Her book comes out on Tuesday, and there wasn't even an opt-in on the top of the website. Now, they're very sophisticated, and they've got a very well-known and robust business, but there were things that we discussed. We talked about marketing before we ever talked about creating a segment for the Today Show. We talked even about creating another product that she didn't have that I knew that she would have available. I said, can you get that together by Tuesday, by the time you're on the show on Thursday? And they said yes. But this is what's really important to make your appearance count. And when people talk about, oh, PR does not make money, PR does not make money for two reasons. One, you don't have your systems set up. And two, you don't have your sound bites down.
Got you. So systems and sound bites are what you need. And I love systems that. Systems. And
absolutely.
It's so important. You can do all the marketing in the world. You can spend millions of dollars on marketing, raising awareness. But then if I come to your warehouse and it's empty, or I don't know what to do next, it's all been for nothing. So you have to, if I understand correctly, Susan, you're saying we've got to capitalize on our performances. And if you don't, it's all been for nothing. Public relations is for nothing unless there's a, is it fair to call it a call to action?
It's a call to action, but it's being able to service that call to action. So, for example, one of my clients who was on Oprah, beforehand, I said, do you have 50,000 units ready to go? And she said, no. And I said, well, can your warehouse have them ready to go? Because that's the possibility when you get on a show like Oprah, when you get on a show like the Today Show. What if you don't have the inventory? So that's part of the back end as well, making sure that you have the inventory as well as capturing names when you get to the website, as well as being able to have your system set up, everything from an 800 number to how you're moving people through your funnel. If they're not going to buy right then, how do you connect with them so they know that they want what you have the next time?
Got you. So if you're gonna, sometimes we get lucky and we get massive media coverage. We weren't expecting it, and we just roll with the flow. But if we're going to be the architect of our own media coverage, then we have to make sure we've thought about the back end and what happens next. And
That's right.
And if we don't do this, it's being for nothing.
That's right. I mean, another one of my clients was getting an O magazine, and I said, put something right on your website, especially for people who had read the article in O magazine. It's something that people don't think. After I say it, it's like, duh, right? It's one of those duh moments, but it's things that people do not think about ahead of time.
Is there anything else you need to do, Susan, before you even contact the media? So you've got to make sure that you can fulfill requests for your service or requests for your product. Is there anything else? Before you even put your hand up and say, hey, media, here I am, you should be interested in me for the following reasons, is there anything else that we need to be sure that we've got in place?
There is, and a lot of people do this back-asswards before they send out the press release, and then the media calls, and then they don't have their sound bites down. Oh. Yeah, and so you've lost a huge opportunity. Because number one, if it's an opportunity, you may lose it, number one. And number two, if you get it, whatever you say has to be compelling enough to want people to buy or buy into whatever you have, right? So there's three things that we do that set the stage for your sound bites. Number one is to make sure that you know how you're going to serve.
Okay.
That's number one.
Sure.
Number two is what do you want for yourself? And that's something super concrete. It's like, how many books do you want to sell? How many units do you want to sell? Who are the people that you want to meet? What kind of partnerships do you want? Do you want more speaking engagements? We lay all of that out. Yeah. And then three is what action do you want your audience to take? What are you going to tell them to do? So those are the three things that drive what you're going to say and the kind of examples you're going to create. So you're not just going to be clever and quippy. A lot of media coaches just say cute one-liners. That's not going to bring you in business. We're looking at what is going to bring you in the business, sales, and partnerships and experiences, both personally and professionally, that you want, and what is going to inspire people to connect with you. Because that's really what it's all about. It's all about connecting. First with one person, then with hundreds, then with thousands, then with millions. So they love you.
So you've got to think very carefully about how you talk about what you do.
Yes.
Susan, I'm going to take a slight detour here and tell you about a personal experience. I was contacted by the BBC Radio Scotland a few months ago. They wanted to talk to me about my book, and I was excited. They contacted me out of the blue. They said, can I even remember what we were talking about? I can't even remember what we were talking about. It was something which they considered I might have some expertise on because I wrote this book some time ago. And I was excited. And I said, yes, absolutely, love to. And the idea of a soundbite didn't even occur to me. Not for a second, it didn't occur to me. I just thought we were going to have a long chat, a philosophical discussion about what a clever guy I was. And they obviously hired me because they were interested in hearing my views. They probably weren't. They were looking for the soundbite. And had I known that, I probably would have had a more enjoyable and more effective experience on the radio, which wasn't a total disaster. But they haven't called me back.
Oh, no. That's right. It's not a conversation. People forget that. In a way, it is a conversation, but a casual conversation, and you want it to appear that way. But particularly with TV shows, it's scripted out. Like with my client for the Today Show, and I've done it for a couple of clients for the Today Show, as well as for Oprah, it's scripted out and timed. We time it out because you only get 2 of 4 minutes. It's a 4-minute show, but because they're talking. They're introducing you, they're interacting, they're having fun. So you have 2 of those 4 minutes. So how do you speak in those 10 to 20 to 30 seconds max to get your meaning across very quickly and also engage the audience that you want and tell them exactly what it is that's going to be meant exactly for them.
That doesn't come naturally, I guess, to many people.
It doesn't, not for anyone, not for me even. I mean, I have a soundbite coach for myself. I have a media coach for myself because I don't do it for myself. Oh, yeah, and she's tough. But absolutely, you get out the timer, you time it out, and you make sure that you can do it under pressure, which is not easy.
Does it all come down to the soundbite? Because it's going to be competitive. Everyone's going to want that coveted 4-minute TV slot. What can you do to stick your elbow in the competitors' faces, metaphorically speaking, in order to rise to the top when we're looking for that edge? Is it just an effective soundbite, or is there other ways that we can fast-track our way to the top of the pile?
Yeah, I'm happy you asked that because it is also like your body language. We get you in 3 seconds, and you're very expressive. You're using your hands, you're using your body. Sometimes we don't do that as much on TV because it can be distracting, But we're on it. We're on TV.
Sit on my hands, Susan.
No, because the way that you're using your hands is appropriate, and it's above your face, which is what we want. We don't want it down here because see how it can look like little birds if I'm like right below here. Yeah, but if we're using our hands up here, then it's more, and you're showing with your hands what you're doing. But one of the things that gives you the competitive edge is in 3 seconds, we already can see if you're comfortable in your own skin, number one. If you're relaxed about yourself, and that takes tremendous practice to be relaxed under the pressure of the camera. And then number 2 is then you want to have a demo video that it goes on your website that shows that you're mediagenic, that you're media ready. So you've already had an experience either on a local show or you've done a mock interview with someone where the camera's on you. Like we're doing a split screen right now, but you can do a camera where the camera's facing just on you, just about from here up, because that's what's typical for a show. And we want to see that you can handle yourself and that you can speak in 10 to 20 second sound bites. So, because here's the thing, if they're reviewing you and they're reviewing 5 other people for the show, and they can just go to your website and say, oh my God, that person is so great. They're really likable, they're really natural, and they can convey what they need to convey in those 10 to 20 seconds. We choose them. They may not even look at the next person on their list.
Is that enough to be irresistible? Is that enough to be certain to be chosen for the right gig when appropriate?
Well, it's about having the right proposition, connecting with the right person, and then being able to deliver it for exactly what they want. Talk shows are very specific, and TV is very specific, and sometimes they're looking for a person for a very specific angle that they've already created. So if you are a right fit for that angle that they have in mind, that's one thing. Now, the other thing that I counsel my clients on is they may have one thing in mind, but you may be able to tweak that angle to suit you. So one of the things that I highly recommend people do is they listen before they talk. That's for the audition.
What did you say?
So they listen. Oh, yeah. They listen before they talk. So I would say to you as a producer, tell me what you have in mind and tell me how you envision the show. So I get you to talk first before I open my mouth. Then I can hear what you have to say, and then I can tailor what it is I'm going to say to either what you need exactly, or say, I can do that. I can do this, this, and this. And I lay it out exactly. I can do exactly what you want. And I have another idea I want to run by you. What about this?
Is there always an audition? Is there an audition? I mean, maybe when I first get started, there'll be an audition. And when I've got a name for myself, it won't be necessary anymore. But how common is that process? So I raise my hand, or I'm identified, and a producer will say, we need to chat to see if you're appropriate. Is that always the case?
It's typical for the higher level shows. It is mostly the case, yes. And on radio shows like NPR, it's the case as well. You're doing a pre-audition before you ever get on the show because they want to make sure that you can handle yourself. And on TV, it's particularly important. But, like I said, what happens typically in TV at the higher levels is they may be talking about a publicist and maybe creating an angle and thinking about it. And then they want to talk to you. And they're listening to how you handle yourself. So you may not even think that's an audition. You're like, oh, I'm just chatting with them just like you thought with the BBC. That's an audition. And that's how they frame it to you. We just want to talk to you for a little bit. We want to see, if we're fit. We want to see what your ideas are. That's an audition. So before, when I work with my clients, like one of my clients is going to be up on the Dr. Oz show, and she was on Ricky Lake, we planned the segment and we scripted it out. They had some ideas and they had ideas of what they wanted to do. And then in the back end, oftentimes, before we ever get to that stage, once they say we're interested, we start scripting out a segment because we want to be able to position ourselves in the way that we want to get that information out there and make it so delicious that the producer will say, that's a great idea, let's go with it. Plus, we've done all the work for them.
Does it mean, Susan, that you have to be always on? I've got a friend in LA who is a jobbing actor, actress. She does a lot of work. But I think, and I don't think it's an LA thing, I think it's a professional thing, but she might spend a good couple of hours every morning getting ready to leave the house. And I said to her once when she was running 2 hours late for a lunch date, I said, where have you been? She said, you never, ever know when you're going to run into the producer of the next big thing. You never know when you're going to run into a casting director. I can't afford to not be on. And it made me think of her when you said, when you're just having that friendly chat with the producer, they need to see that you're able to communicate clearly and effectively and in a compelling way that's going to entertain, presumably, their audience.
Yeah, and I don't really see it as being on. I see it as making a connection. Sure. So, it's not about your makeup. It's about your internal makeup. It's not about, that you've done your hair for the day. It's that you are a kind of person that we want to get to know on a show and that you have valuable information for our audience and you can convey it quickly and in a delightful and entertaining way.
Got you. What I read,
so she's in LA, and I told her
well, maybe it's an LA thing. Maybe it's maybe I suppose it depends on the kind of roles you're going for as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
You mentioned a flash drive. Something I've read or something I've heard you speaking about before. You mentioned how a flash drive can save your skin.
Yeah, it can save.
Share the secret.
So oftentimes, especially when things are going on at the last minute, you should have your flash drive ready. I've got one on my floor here. Oh, I do. voila, it's from my PBS radio station, flash drive. So I have a flash drive here, and on the flash drive, you have all of your most important materials, which is your a headshot, your photos. May have B-roll, which is background footage.
Sure.
So that's live video. You also have, like, if you have a book, you would have the cover of your book on here. You would also have anything that the producer needs, you have here, because oftentimes you get to the studio and things are really hectic, and it's like, oh my God, where's her book? Now, they may have shot B-roll of it, or where's the product, if it's a product or service, or where is any of that stuff. So you always want to have that ready, so you can just, if there's an emergency, you just hand it to the producer and say, everything's right here, so no worries. Because technical things go wrong, it's Murphy's Law.
Sure.
It's Murphy's Law, so we have to prepare for Murphy's Law. So, for example, one of my clients, Rich Fetke, who I media trained to get a 6-figure book advance, some of the things that he had in his B-roll, which everyone used, was he was an Olympic bungee jumper. So there was a footage of him in a suit. Because he's a businessman, right? He's an executive coach. He was in his business suit, jumping off of a mountain, jumping off of a bridge as a bungee jumping, and climbing a mountain in his suit. So he's climbing the mountain in a suit like what you're wearing, a pinstripe suit. Everybody loved that. He also had footage of a client of his reaching the top of the mountain, because his book is called Extreme Success. So it's about people who use it's a metaphor. He also used extreme success scenarios to illustrate, I've climbed the mountain, I can now do anything in my business, making that connection. And so those are the kinds of things you want to have on here, that kind of B-roll and those kind of photos.
Because you go that step further to controlling your message.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so you want to have all of that set up ahead of time. Absolutely.
As well as presumably getting a reputation for being reliable and always in control.
Yeah. So the client that I just media trained for, the 2 clients I just media trained for the Today Show, we planned out all the props. We planned out all the props, and we planned out the interaction between the hosts and her. So, an interaction, things to eat, things to do, because we had all of that scripted out. It's like, here's what we're going to do now. So we script it and we make it fun. It's like how your props can move you through. So it's twofold, because you only have the 10 to 20 second. Your props can do the talking for you.
Yeah.
So we create props, so you don't have to do a lot of explaining. The props just explain it. And if it's interactive, like with my one client, they're going to be eating chocolate. You give chocolate to everybody, and then everybody's having a good time, right? While she's talking about the benefits of chocolate.
Got you.
Right?
Got you.
Does that make sense?
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. And I suppose, the more you do things like TV, the more you get to know what looks good, for example, what colour clothes you should be wearing. I'm going to ask you about that in a second, but I just like to backtrack a tiny bit and say, what comes first, Susan? I know we have to have our systems and our back end and our things sorted out before in order to profit from our performance or our appearance. But how do we get to the stage anyway, where Oprah or the Today Show or anybody,
I've got a comment
national
about your,
TV will say, yes, I'm interested and I want you. How do we? I mean, do we have to have that? Can the chicken come before the egg, I suppose, or vice versa? Can we say, I will build my career based on good PR? Or does the good PR come from you having established a firm foundation elsewhere first?
It happens both ways, and oftentimes if it happens unexpectedly, and I just wanted to comment on your back end, because we did see your back end earlier. When you were talking, we were sort of going in the direction of clothes, and then we moved off, but because oftentimes on TV, as you and I were talking, you're wearing your boxer shorts, I'm wearing sweats below here. Yeah.
It's true. Okay, it's true.
Boxer shorts, and I don't know if you're going to be willing to show it to us right now.
I don't have a choice now, I don't think, do I? Should I do a 12 for you? Should I do a quick 12 for you? Make sure I say, can you see that?
Yes, I can. Those are very attractive boxers. That's great.
In my boxer shorts. There we go.
I'm in my sweats.
There we go. You get proper behind the scenes. Very good.
So what we were talking about? We were talking about the chicken before the egg, which is do you want to jump into media first, or do you really want to be ready? Lots of times it just happens, you're right, but if you can get your systems set up now and get everything prepared, you will have more success in the long run. We want to do that because we don't want you to scramble.
Sure.
And that does happen anyway. Even when you're ready. I mean, one of my other clients whose book is on the New York Times bestseller list, it was like she's getting booked on national TV shows. She sometimes has to leave tomorrow.
Yeah.
So she's madly calling me up, and can we create a segment on the fly? Because I'm going to be flying out tomorrow. But since we've already done so much work, we can do that really fast now. And so if you've already done the pre-work and know what your sound bites are, have your website down, have all of your systems down, it makes for way smoother ride when the success comes. So I think you should really plan for your success. So for example, one of my clients who failed an NPR audition, because he had very complex and very interesting things to say, but it took way too long to say it. And his publisher hired me because he had failed an audition, and it was really important that he got these NPR auditions. So after I media trained him, just privately for 4 hours, he could tell his story in those 20 to 30 seconds, and he passed his next NPR interview. Very important stuff, really great stuff about the economy that was very important, and he made a presentation to President Obama. So when you talk about luck meeting opportunity, he would not have been able to do that a month earlier because he didn't have his sound bites down. So he wouldn't have gotten the NPR interview, and he wouldn't have been able to convey his ideas succinctly to the president. So luck meets opportunity, and so that's why it's best to work well on the back end.
So here's another question. Do you have to be good at something before you get the exposure? Or you can be famous for being famous, you can get into Jersey Shore or something, but at least you're good at something. Then you're good at being that character that they're looking for. But you can't, could you take anybody off the street and get them on Oprah? No, they'd have to have some kind of expertise or some kind of credibility first, I'm guessing.
Well, weve seen a lot of people become famous for their 15 seconds of fame. But do you want 15 seconds of fame, or do you want a lifetime of respectability and business? That's a question you can answer. Can anyone get 15 seconds of fame? Pretty much in today's world. But is it lasting? Is it satisfying? Is that the kind of person you are? It's not the kind of person that I work with. Yeah. If somebody just wants fame, I'm not interested in them. I'm interested in people who have something to offer that's going to be around for a significant amount of time. And that takes like you said, you have to be an expert in something, have had some sort of dramatic experience. We see people like that all the time. And we also see people who've had dramatic experiences that then turn them into a career. I think that's very common in our culture today, too, there's been a life-changing point for people. But there's also people who have got the latest new tech projects or beautiful, some beautiful food. I've worked with clients who have delicious food, which I love, or somebody who's socially conscious. So having something that a lot of people would benefit from is really the bottom line of being famous and being well respected and growing your business over the long term.
And if you are competent at something that somebody else is competent at, if you have self-doubts about your ability to do something better than the other,
we don't have self-doubts.
We do or we don't?
We do. Everyone has self-doubts.
I don't know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, you don't, but I do. Like I was talking to a client yesterday, and she said, she's from Australia, and she goes, I see that you're so perfect. I'm like, me? Perfect? I go, let me talk to my sweetie. Hello, no. Yeah. It has nothing. It's other people's perception. One of my clients, Victoria Moran, said, we compare our insides to other people's outsides.
Yes.
And I think that's very true. And so it looks like everyone else has a good life or perfect, but we don't have any idea what those struggles are. And we all I think 100% of my clients deal with this self-doubt, no matter how famous they are, from the beginners to the people who are really, it's often the people who are the most critical of themselves are the people who've gone the highest, who've gone the furthest, and who are the ones who are really exceptional at what they do. And do they have self-doubt? Yes, they do. And do we move forward and practice and continue to do that? I think it's partly the training and the practice and the continual commitment to doing better. And for every media appearance, I say, you look at your media appearance and you say, what did I do well and what could I have done differently? Yeah. So I'm going to lose. What am I going to lose? What am I going to keep? And what did I like about myself? You know, and everything shows up because you always have people that go, I mean, I had one client who said, you know, who is that person? I don't believe a word she's saying. You know, that liar. That's not true. And she's pointing at herself, you know, at the TV screen.
There's some, you're just bringing home to me right now how important all of this stuff is. And we're talking about the level of expertise that you have. And if we take an author, for example, because I know you work with a lot of authors, you would agree, I would imagine, that the best writers are not always the most successful authors. In fact, the most successful authors are the best marketers, and they have to have a level of competence, they have to have a great message, and that has to resonate with people for sure. But it's, you know, there are undiscovered painters who are selling their works for a couple of dollars a piece, while there are less competent artists who are wonderful at marketing themselves through public relations, through other things, who are charging multiple thousands for their same work. So if you, I think success is intrinsically linked to the way that you can tell your message, and this is where you would come in.
It is, and it's also the way you package yourself. Yes. So it's not just about the words, but it's how you're packaged in such a way. Because even someone who's a painter or who's not that great with words, we can still tell a picture with pictures.
What about if we get on? How can we muck up a TV appearance? So we've done this. We've done the hard work. We've passed the producer's audition. We've got a great B-roll. We've remembered to carry a flash drive with us, which has the headshot from this year and not the one from 10 years ago, which we don't want to use.
No, that's a huge no-no, by the way.
Yeah.
Because if you show up and you're 50 pounds heavier, or if you had no hair, no, that's a huge no-no. They will be very angry at you, and they may not book you just for that reason because they think you're a liar.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't want that. Okay, so you've done all of that, but I'm sure something can still go, I'm wearing stripes and they tell me that I can't wear a striped shirt on TV because it makes the colours go funny. Are there any absolute no-nos, is my next question, for when we get into the TV studio in front of the camera? And second, and the follow-on question to that is, what if it all goes wrong? How do we salvage a total mess-up?
Okay, so we'll talk about clothes no-nos first. I think you meant clothes. One thing is we don't want your clothes to speak before you do. Okay. So if your clothes are making such a huge, loud impression and we don't listen to anything you say, that's a distraction. So we want clothes that are complementary to your skin tone and to your and also to your style. It should match who you are and what your profession is. So some no-nos for men, although we're not seeing you now, is when you can see the ankle, so the socks hike up.
I couldn't agree more. No. And socks to the knees with garters. No.
Yeah.
As an Englishman, I always wear garters.
Do you?
No, but I used to at school. When I was a kid at school, I used to. Now I wear long socks.
See garters when you were walking around.
They have to come to the knee, don't they, socks? A good pair of socks has to come to the knee.
They do. And then no, for women, if you can't have earrings that are making a lot of noise, jangling, or big things. And then for men, like sometimes with suits, so no like herringbones or things that have those wild patterns. Mm-hmm. And women, you really, like, you can show a tiny bit of skin here, but you shouldn't have your boobs pushed up.
Unless that's your thing.
Unless that's your thing, because that's where you're gonna be looking. You're gonna be looking. If I'm talking and you can see my boobs pushed up, that's where you're gonna be looking.
Got you. Sure.
Right. Yeah. And instead of paying attention to what my message is,
anything detracts from your message is bad news. Yeah.
That's right.
Sure.
That's exactly right. That's exactly it. So you want people to be paying attention to you and your essence and your internal beauty and your message, and not going, that doesn't really. That's those clothes don't really.
Is she wearing?
So, yeah, right. Exactly.
Got you.
As for avoiding disasters, one of the things,
or recovering from disaster.
Yes, recovering from disaster. So here's the thing. When you learn your sound bites, it's not just about having your sound bites down, but it's about turning on a dime. It's about being able to construct your sound bites on the point. It's about going with the flow, because change happens all the time. So you may have something, a TV segment and everything all scripted out and all ready to go. And this is what happened to one of my clients who was on Oprah. On a Saturday, I was working, of course, at home, and she called me up and she said, we've been taping for 14 hours, and they just changed the angle. Please help. Now, she already had her sound bites down, but we had a very tightly scripted theme of everything she was going to talk about, and they were taping for like 3 days. So we revamped that in that afternoon. But my goal is that you won't need to call me, and that you will be able to say, you know what, I can talk about this in another way. I can go with this angle. That takes a tremendous amount of practice. That's like level 10. So that's where all the practice comes in. So, you know, one of my clients who just went on a media tour, he's a New York Times bestseller, and he had some big media first. And so what he said to me is, Susan, and this is not his first media tour either. He said, Susan, everything went to hell in a handbasket that you taught me. He goes, I know everything you said to do, but when I was in the interview face to face with the host, I forgot everything. And so what he said was, you know, I really wished I would have had the smaller interviews first before it was big time. And that's what I recommend. So people all want to be, you know, on the big TV talk shows, right? But do all of your local TV first. Work out all the kinks. Get used to being on camera and having the hot lights flashing down on you and that scary countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom! And then you're off. And then before you know it, the 4 minutes are over. And you're like, oh, no, I didn't get to say anything. I didn't see anything Susan taught me. So, you know, you do that first, and then the next time it's like, I said 2 things that I meant to say, you know? And then when you start to get more experience, it's like the whole thing goes smoothly. I could say exactly what I wanted to say under any circumstances, even if Bill O'Reilly was shouting at me and calling me an idiot.
So you've got to flex your soundbite muscle.
You do.
It comes down to being able to succinctly package your message in a way that is easily consumable, but fits the medium and the medium of the TV show.
Well, we're talking about TV, so yeah.
So you can get us on TV. More importantly, I think you can help us when we're on TV to get our message
you get
across.
booked on TV. So a publicist or yourself would book you. Okay. And then I work with you to make sure that your appearance is a success, to draw you in the kind of business partnerships and experiences that you want, and to double or triple your income. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for maximizing that opportunity.
Sure. And the secret lies in sound bites.
The secret does lie in sound bites. I couldn't have said it better.
I love that. Was that a good sound bite?
That was a great sound bite.
Fantastic.
Yes, and one I think I'll use if you don't mind.
The secret is in the sound. The secret's in the soundbite. There we go.
The secret's in the soundbite.
The secret's in the soundbite. Fantastic. Susan, you're going to tell us more about your soundbite course when we speak to you next week.
Yes, I am.
Anything you want to tell us? Anything else that we should know right now before we wrap it up and call it a day? Either about soundbites, or about you, or about how we can discover more about what you have to offer, or what we should do immediately right now, this minute this video ends.
Immediately, what you should do as soon as this video ends is sign up for my e-zine. So you'll get these kind of tips. They're more than tips. They're really habits. They're really experiences that you can learn from as well in my e-zine. So what you can do right now in terms of your sound bites, we all need sound bites. You know, our attentions are the size of a tsetse fly now. So you are using sound bites in your social media. You're using them at the grocery store. You're using them at networking events. So everyone needs to speak in sound bites, even if you're just talking to your kids and getting them to pick up their clothes. You're only saying something once, and you mean it. And that's what we're going for, to be taken seriously as people. But it's really about creating a compelling message, whoever your audience is in the moment. So it doesn't matter whether it's PTA or the Today Show, you know. So either one. And what else was I supposed to talk about?
That's all right. No, that's great. That's great. That's absolutely wonderful.
Okay.
If you've been watching this so far, thank you so very much. We'll be back next week with another deal, actually, from Susan for you. So all the links you need are below this video if you're watching this on our Daily Success Deals site. If you're watching on YouTube, jump over there and you'll discover everything you need. Thank you so much for joining us today, Susan Harrow. I've learned a whole ton.
Have you?
I'm going to go off and polish my sound bites, or even craft them from nothing in order to become a more compelling, more convincing, and more effective speaker. Huge thank you to you. Hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you. And next time for the BBC, you'll be ready.